Good morning. Thank you for joining us today for Webinar Wednesday for June 2018. This morning, we're going to be looking at an overview of the BRUKL document. My name's Katie. I'm the moderator for this session this morning, and I look after all the digital communications here at CABE. So if there's any questions or any problems, then just get in touch and I can deal with those as we go along. So how do you get in touch? Well, on the right-hand side of your screen or the top of your screen, depending on the device that you're using today, you can actually send in questions. Just type them in. They'll pop up then on my screen. And if there are any questions regarding the content of the presentation, we'll either pick those up as we go along, or we may kind of group questions and add them into a Q&A at the end. But again, if there's any technical things, then do shout. I will mention now, before we get too far into this, that I have had a few notifications on my screen already this morning warning me about connection. So everything should be fine. If you have any or do drop out and it is sort of we can't continue, what we'll do is we'll just stop the session and then we will look to have it pre-recorded for you, and I'll just send you all the link. So you will get the content. All being well, it will happen in real time, but if not, we do have a plan. For those of you watching on catch-up, perhaps on our YouTube channel, you can still send any questions to us. Just pop them over to info@cbld.com and we will answer those for you. If you're on Twitter, hashtag CABECPD. So today, your presenter, it's Dan Smith, and Dan is a director at Greenfish Consulting. He's one of the founding partners. And he's responsible for ensuring the smooth running and coordination and management of client projects. He specialises in new build designs to include thermal modelling for BREEAM requirements and BRUKL compliance. He's a fellow of the Chartered Association of Building Engineers and a CIBSE low carbon consultant, and is also a level 3, 4 and 5 energy assessor. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand over to Dan. He will take you through this morning's presentation. Like I say, any questions, feel free to send them over. So if you give me 2 seconds, I will.
I've got to drop in and show what screen. Yeah. Am I showing the right screen now? Well, that's it.
There you go.
No. Yeah. Right. Good morning, all. I'm going to give you an overview of the BRUKL document. I'll be probably jumping in between slides and other bits I've got on my desktop. So any questions, ask them during as we go along, and I'll try and answer them. Right, first we're going to start with the BRUKLs. Primary place of worship, self-explanatory. Temporary buildings that are meant to be on site for less than 10 years. This doesn't cover modular buildings, sort of port cabin stuff like that. They are within the requirements. So if you've got, normally they're under 50 square meters, which is the next one down. If they're not under 50, so we've got 2 bolted together, they will trigger the requirement for a BRUKL. Levels of building complexity. This mainly relates to EPCs after the BRUKL is completed. All new builds are level 4 in complexity. They can be done in SBEM or DSM methodology. Level 3s are generally little shops, bits and pieces like that. Level 4s they have more advanced HVAC systems in there. So normally a centralized AHU and bits like that. Level 5s come into the realms of DSM solely, as it cannot be done in SBEM. These relate to buildings with atriums, enhanced ventilation strategies, and quite a bit of glazing. Normally buildings also with over 300 zones are run as DSM, purely because SBEM can't deal with that many zones. I'll cover that a bit more later anyway. Yes, regulation 26 is the CO2 on the BRUKL. So this is covered by criteria 1. So it's the main criteria in there. There's only 3 to look at. You've got, as long as your CO2 is better than your target building, which is the NCM in the modelling. So it's your notional building that your actual building is compared to. I'll go into that in greater detail later as well. So criteria 1 is just, is your building less on CO2 compared to the notional building? I'm going to be quick on this. Regulation 27 basically just applies to when works, when BRUKL has got provided. So you've got, before the work start, you've got your as-built BRUKL, after the work start no later than 5 days, and then we have a shell and core. A shell and core BRUKL is, it's provided on pre-fit out, and it is normally assumed data that's used. I'll cover that again when we get a bit further down. Right, the production of BRUKLs. Anyone can produce a BRUKL if they've got access to the software. The legislation states that they should be an energy assessor to provide this BRUKL. What I normally find is a lot of jobs come to me, they've already had the as-designed BRUKL done, and they are a lot of make-believe data in there. The general purpose being an energy assessor to provide the BRUKL is you comply with all the conventions as you go through. So if someone's not a member of an accreditation body, they will not have access to the up-to-date conventions to produce BRUKLs and EPCs. So you see a lot of stuff that isn't particularly wrong, but will affect the rating. So you'll do your as-designed BRUKL. Look at that. The assessor should be registered. You'll be able to find them on the landmarks. If you ever want to find anyone, just click on the link, and it will take you to landmark, and then you'll be able to look up what assessor's there, and if he is qualified to produce the BRUKL document. I can do it quickly for you if my net browser loads up. Yes. So I just bring this over here. Should work. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So we'll just, if I do find nearest assessor, I'll put my postcode in. So that's my one there. Everyone else there can produce BRUKLs. Get it back out of the way. Obviously, when a first design BRUKL is produced, it is advisory for the person who does that first BRUKL to carry it through for all the stages, because then you can get continuity throughout the project. A lot of time, the design changes quite a few times throughout the project, and if you keep updating the BRUKL as you go, it saves a lot of aggro at the end. Regulation 25A. Basically, it's a feasibility study of renewable systems in the building. So generally, this is done at planning stage. On the top here, that's what you see on the BRUKL. Has one been done? Is the evidence of one? Most of the time, as an energy assessor, we do not see the sustainability study. So if we can't see it, we normally leave this box as a no. But as it's a regulation, if you leave this box as a no, it will fail. All we have on here to do is little tick boxes and that's it. So have we seen one? It doesn't have to be in place. You don't have to implement anything in the feasibility study, but it should be there. Right. The criteria on the BRUKL. Well, I'm only going to cover 1, 2, and 3 because 4 building performance is to do with the as built BRUKL compared to the performance gap between the as built BRUKL and what it's actually performing like. So your air test was sitting there. So your air test is generally normally better than what's been put in as the design BRUKL, because we always specify a little bit higher. 5 is basically the building logbook, so your operation manuals and that, so we won't cover them. Yeah, criteria 2 is your fabric performance and your services. So obviously you've got your U values, average U values here. If I bring up I'll try and get to my desktop. I'll bring up a full BRUKL, which will be a lot easier. Okay. Just wait for this to pop up. Right, so this is an as-built BRUKL, one I've done last week. So your criteria 1, all confirms. This one, we had no data at all for the U values. So the defaults were used in there, but they are still averages. So I said these are averages here. If you want to see what the minimum U values have been used, it is best to jump to the bottom of the document. And here we'll see what minimum U values have been put into the BRUKL document for walls, roofs, floors, windows, and so on. Let's get back down to there. With the glazes in the windows as well, if you've got, say we're showing 1.64. The windows within this project have been put in as 1.6, I think, but we're showing 1.64 because there's glazed personnel doors in there. The glazed personnel is a tab rather than the personnel doors. So the personnel doors, if they're solid, they'll fit in this box here. In the personnel doors, if they're glazed, they'll have an effect on the average U value of the windows. The boiler efficiency is covered in criteria 2. These simply say all the boxes on the BRUKL have to be in green. But the way I interpret the regs is all you need to meet is BERTER. That will take care of them. Regulation 26. But if they're all green, you don't need to show compliance in other ways. So all your efficiencies are in there. Multiple types. If there's multiple types of system in a building, you should keep according to their own. So you can see what systems are in there, what efficiencies have been assigned to them independent systems. The same with the hot water. The hot water can be incorporated if you've got a boiler, and hot water can be incorporated into the efficiency of the boiler. But normally, I like to break it out into its own separate system. So you see this one's got two systems. There's one provided by the boiler and another provided by a standalone system. The mechanical vent in this one was just extract to the WCs. On this, sometimes depending on what you're using, the software can put these into the wrong boxes. So if you see one that should be in, say, box D and it's just sitting in box B and it's failing, have a word with whoever done the BRUKL. It might be a case that the software at that time has wrote the SFPs on the BRUKL in the wrong place, which can happen. Your lighting on here. Once again, can come up red. It depends on how it's been entered. You can enter this as lumens per watt into the right zones, or you can do it off plots and data. It'll then be against the node. Criteria 3. Passive solar measures solar gain. It's not an overheating assessment. I spoke to a couple of BCOs before that have used this as an overheating, saying the building will not overheat. All it does is says this building has a likelihood of getting hot based on the amount of glazing within that zone, within the building, within the zones within the building. It doesn't take into account anything else apart from your glazed areas within that. So you can, if I bring that up, over again. So if I bring up here on this one, the criteria for on this one, basically it just gives you a percentage that it's exceeded or not exceeded. It's based on pure glazing, so it won't take into, say if you've got mechanically ventilated building in there, it won't take that into account. It will say yes, you're over. So this one's close here, and all the rest are fine. Air test. Normally, design stage, you get your air test, which normally goes in as 5, because depending on the notional building, it's between 3 and 7 on the notional building, depending on it is. So you're comparing against that. We normally put it in as 5 at design stage, and the figures normally sit around between 3 and 5 when they're pressure tested anyway, so on the commercial buildings. If it's under the 500 square meters, then you can put it in as 15. The trouble is, if a job that has already been design stage and they put a figure in as 5, and the building is under 500 square meters and they don't get an air test, this figure the figure of 15 has to be put in, and then it has a large effect on the actual BERT in the project. So it's worth noting if you see a project with a figure of 5 in and it's under the 500 square meters on a commercial, it's worth noting them to get an air test rather than to just accept they don't require one and not get one on meter BERT. Shell and core BRUKLs. Right. Shell and core BRUKLs are BRUKLs that are issued at the shell stage. If you're going to sell the shell, you will issue a shell and core BRUKL. Because no one knows what the fit out is going to be, it's going to have to be assumed data. When I do these, I like to assume these to minimum standards, so they pass regs, but not excelling on the BRUKL. This is so that when the fit out's actually done, you can actually fit it out within the scope rather than ridiculous figures being put in the BRUKL. You're never ever going to meet them. I'm going to bring up. I've got some notes on so I've got bits and pieces everywhere. I'm just going to shrink that. see my notes. Right, okay. Yeah, so shell and core BRUKLs were done like that. I don't know if I put it in here. It states for shell and core BRUKLs that an EPC is, a lodged EPC is not required when they have been done. But what a number of solicitors have pointed out is within the EPBD, it states that an EPC should be in place for sale and rent. So the approved document is then superseded by the EPBD, and then you have to lodge an EPC. This then causes another issue, that instead of the people doing the fit out getting a new EPC and a new BRUKL done after fit out, they use the lodged EPC that's been done at this shell and core stage to give to building control or the solicitors, whoever needs it. So therefore, there's nothing produced at fit out stage. We see this quite a lot. The EPC doesn't have shell and core on it. It is just a lodged EPC, which is a bit of a problem because there's a few times this has happened, and it's been saying, yes, you've got one, it's valid, so therefore we can use it. But my advice is to just look at the dates on the EPC when it comes over, just to verify it has been done after fit out and they've not given you the pre-fit out EPC. Total greater than calculated to 20 regs rather than 2013. I've had a number of comebacks on this. That is written in Part L2B. I'm not sure I've got it here. No. So it's covered in L2B. The extensions have to be done under the 2010 MCM methodology. So we'll produce the BRUKL, and instead of running it to 2013, it'll be run to 2010. This is so that existing services in the building can be extended into the extension. It was, when it first was left in there, it was left in there after the last update to the approved document. It was thought it was a misprint, but it isn't. It is actually to allow lenience for building the extensions. SBEM and DSM. Right, the main differences between SBEM and DSM is how the weather data is used. SBEM is monthly weather data, DSM is hourly weather data, normally CIBS's weather data. ISBEM is the free interface. It's free downloaded from the BRE. It is only graphical. It's not graphical at all. It is just pure data entry. It can cause a lot of problems in missing walls and zones and that. There is interfaces that you can use on here that use the SBEM and use the ISBEM and do have a graphical interface, which makes it a lot easier, but they're still not classed as DSMs. Some are DSMs, some are not. So on the BRUKL, you're going to see on the top left of the BRUKL what software was used to complete that BRUKL. So this one here has been done in SBEM. It's not been done in ISBEM. It's been done in IES, SBEM. I'll go into this a bit more in a minute. Next one down has been run in Apache, which is IES's DSM software. So that's where you're able to see what software has been done in. What I can do is I can get I'll bring up IES as we're speaking. Right, this is IES. This is the SBEM and DSM software. I'll just flip between. I'll show you the differences. Right. So to look at, there isn't much difference. Basically, this is the SBEM interface for IES, and then for the DSM, it is simply that. So to look at, there's not much differences. It's just how the data is calculated and what engine is run to make the results. So shading, for instance, in SBEM, you can't fill those in. So I generated two exactly the same buildings. One has a building opposite, the other one doesn't. Top one is running SBEM, bottom one's running DSM. So you can see the SBEM one's failing, the DSM one isn't, because it's taking into account the shading from other buildings. Good. Lovely. So I'll show you. I'm trying to cover as broad a subject on this as I can in the time I've got. So I'm going to just show you a couple of entries. Another thing is with the lighting. There's a number of ways to put the lighting in, depending on what data we've got. So at design stage, you would choose lighting chosen but not calculated. And normally, you probably have a figure of 80 lumens per circuit watt. So that comes up. Light per ratio, it's going to be LED these days, so it's going to be light per ratio of 1. Most manufacturers give you literature, they'll say LED, light per ratio of 1, because the beams, as long as they're not diffused, it's fine. If they're diffused, they can jump up to 0.85, 0.75. All this would do is apply a ratio to the lumens per circuit watt. So that's been put in 80. So this is generally what you'll see at a design stage. So if I just run that quick, if it will. And I'll just bring up the BRUKL that this is going to be off of. Let's take a couple of seconds to run. And you'll see how the lighting's gone in for design stage. See, we're now failing as the lighting's been dropped. So we'll view the document. So down to lighting. We're now in 80 lumens per circuit watt. This is generally what you'll see at the design stage, because it hasn't been calculated properly. As soon as you start calculating it properly for the as-built, it will alter the ERT, because lighting, preliminarily in a commercial building, is going to be the heaviest load by far. You can see it's jumped 15.3, 12.5, and it was a lot better than that before. Yeah, 12. While we're here, if you look at the consumption, you can see, if you just compare the actual to the notional, you can see where you're good and where you're not so good on the BRUKL. Nice, quick, easy check. You can see the lighting's pretty much matched the notional on here. There's no cooling in the building, so it won't show up. There's no PB in the building, so it won't show up. With criteria 3 as well, as I said earlier, that it doesn't do overheating. What you can do is you can do BB 101 for schools. I do a lot of schools, so it's preliminarily what I do. There's 3 criteria. It can't get above 28 degrees for more 120 hours. Degrees C. Mainly, it's all done in the DSM software. You only need to pass 2 of these criteria. So normally, because the easiest 2 to pass, you do the 120 hours and 28 degrees. and the 32 degrees. And these are the results you get out. So you'll have the temperature of the room, the peak temperature of the room, the amount of hours out of range over 28 degrees, the amount of hours over 32 degrees. So this will show you can compliance with BB01, BB101 in your classrooms. Also, there's a criteria that says that the CO2 density shouldn't exceed 1500. So we run that as well. So we're looking at 756 on these rooms, 756, 757. So that proves that the CO2 density isn't over 1500 as well. Right, I think that's me done. I think I'll run through that a bit quick.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much. Kind of come to an end.
Very quick.
So what I'll ask now is if anybody's got any questions, because we haven't got anything in as yet. But if anything that's come up this morning has triggered any questions, then please do just send them over to us. We'll probably hold this open for a few minutes if you want to send anything over. Whilst you're busily typing and posing your questions to us, is just to tell you that our next webinar will be on the 18th of July, and we're looking at basement waterproofing. So once this webinar concludes this morning, you'll get an email from me, and those of you who've joined us before will know kind of the deal. You'll get a link to the next webinar. You'll also get a link to this presentation that we'll post online. Now, I know there were a few little dips in connection about 15 minutes in. If there was anything that was covered that perhaps you feel like you missed or you didn't quite get the full gist of because of those little dips, pop me an email. I'll send it over to Dan and we'll kind of cover any questions off, or if you want to go through anything or perhaps have further conversations about the content of the session, then obviously, absolutely, we'll do that for you. So I'm now just sitting here waiting for any questions. Is there anything else you want to cover off, Dan, or want to mention?
I'll just see what else I've got in. I haven't bring anything else up. I don't think so. I didn't intend to go through it that quick, to be honest.
That's the joys of webinars.
It is, yeah.
Sitting in a room
without having people to bounce off, it's a bit hard to present.
That's fair enough. Well, I think as it's looking fairly quiet on the question front, we'll close the session there. But again, as I say, if you do have any questions or you go away and think of anything that you want to that you do want to ask with regards to this morning's session, then just pop me over an email. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to say thank you for joining us. Thank you, Dan, for your time this morning, for coming to HQ as well to deliver the session. And we will see you all online next month. Thank you. Bye-bye.